Hello, everybody, and welcome into Carl's Conversations. We truly have an international panel today and an international audience. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. I am so excited to have this particular presentation to you all here today. We're going to talk about Omnicruit. Omnicruit is a organization that recruits nursing professionals all over the world, and they are standing in the gap to help fix the nursing shortage. Now, for any of you who have ever been hospitalized or had to have rehabilitative care or even seeking a home health care or elder care, you know how important it is to not only have a nurse, but to have a competent, compassionate nurse. And so you may not get it until you got it. But once you're in need, you will absolutely understand how valuable nursing is. There's a shortage. There are many, many reasons why there's a shortage. But Omnicruit is standing in the gap to fix that shortage. And I have with me today this wonderful panel that you see, this panel of professionals. They're going to tell you all about this company. I've interviewed the managing director before, but since my last interview with him, there has been some exciting changes. There is a new direction that the company is taking on. And let me tell you, when you get a chance to hear a brief resume of all of these professionals that we have on with us, you'll understand why this tremendous group has been assembled. I will ask you just for a few housekeeping notes. If you're already live with us, please do us a favor and share the broadcast. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and begin to tag your family and friends, especially folks that you know who are nurses, who are looking for placements. If you are an executive with a healthcare organization and you know that you need nurses and nursing professionals, you need to be with us because you're going to get some information today that is going to help your organization to stop the bleeding, right? You're going to be able to have a pipeline of nurses, and I mean immediately. We do love an interactive audience. So at any time, if you have a comment or a question, we want you to ask it because we have with us some subject matter experts who can absolutely answer the question for you. We're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. We thank God for all of you. So this is what I want you to do. If you're with us, make sure you go to the Omnicruit YouTube channel. You need to follow. You need to subscribe. Go to the Omnicruit Facebook page. Be sure that you follow and like. Go to the Omnicruit Twitter page. Make sure that you follow them. All right. So here we go. I'm going to introduce first the managing director of Omnicruit, none other than Mr. Timothy L. Armstrong, and he is going to get us started. Good day to you, sir.
Good day to you, Carl, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon to so many people that are around the world that are joining us, and we really appreciate your time. I think there's a disclaimer there with a similar, the same last name as Carl. I think that the disclaimer there is that we are blood brothers and the best of friends, and so he has been so kind to share his platform with Omnicruit. And I would also like to disclose that Carl is one of our members of our board of advisors, as well as these other three individuals that we will introduce to you very soon. We are so incredibly happy to share our story with you. We're so incredibly happy to share the good news of the work that we're doing, in that we are combating the shortage of nurses and other paramedical professionals in the United States, and with a global reach as well. And of course, we'll share some of that as we go further. But Carl, I want some of your guidance here, because as we get started, I want to introduce the team, but I don't want it to give their resume. I want them to give their resume themselves. But I would just give a short, brief introduction of the four team members here, and then I will turn it over to them and allow them to briefly introduce themselves. we have Mary-Claire Jeong, who is our chairman of our board of advisors, who is an excellent professional. She has an incredible global reach. She's sitting in France this morning, I believe. It's hard to keep up with MC sometimes. I call it MC, so if I skirt that way, please forgive me, Mary-Claire, because we're so familiar. Mary-Claire and I have known each other since 2012 or 13, I do believe. So we're in our 10th year of knowing one another. Also want to introduce Dominique Hawkins, and I want you all to understand that Dominique brings a very interesting portfolio to the table, and I can't wait for you to get to know her more as well, because she is a nurse practitioner who brings a very professional portfolio to the table. I'll allow her to introduce herself. We have Marco Cavalti. Marco, I think I pronounced your last name incorrectly, so I'll allow you to correct me later on that. So Marco is a finance interest strategic professional who is going to bring an interesting perspective and give us some growth to the organization. We have not spoke broadly about growth and our financial standing much as we have gone through our evolutions over the last 12 to 18 months, but Marco brings that strength to the table. I'll allow Marco to explain his portfolio and what he brings to the table. And last but not least, Carl is our liaison to our to community and to hospitals, and he is going to help us out with our legislative strategy as well. He sits as a board member with Omnicruit. So if you will, I will start with Mary-Claire, and we'll go in that order for all of you to take 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself to the world as board members to Omnicruit. So I'll turn it over to you, Mary-Claire, then we'll bounce over to Dominique, Marco, and then Carl.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim. And Carl, thank you so much for having us today. I think it's a great opportunity to give more voice to Omnicruit, its passion and its plan moving forward. I'm Marie-Claire. I'm based in France, just as Tim told you. Lived overseas for a long time though. And I bring over 30 years of corporate experience, primarily in human capital and especially in the arena of talent, which is very relevant to the Omnicruit business. I've held executive positions in Fortune 500 companies and conglomerates in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And that's, of course, referring to the global network that Tim was referring to earlier. Now, currently, as the CEO of Shift, I partner with senior executives to drive change and thrive in business, especially in global settings and challenging markets. Now, I believe that Omnicruit is very well positioned to make a real difference in closing the nurse shortage in the US, matching quality domestic and international nurses and other paramedical staff with leading US hospitals and care facilities. So I'm excited to be part of this journey. Thank you. I think it's over to Dominique.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dominique Hawkins. I am a member of the Omnicruit board, and I'm just recently added. I am a nurse practitioner by trade. I've been a nurse practitioner for the past 3 to 4 years. I've been an RN prior to that for 10 years. I bring a unique perspective because my first role in nursing was in a staffing position. So I haven't ever held a position in nursing that has been permanent besides being a director of nursing in a long-term care facility. So I bring the ability for Omnicruit to see things from a nurse's perspective, but also from a long-term care perspective as well. That is a big part of my background. I've always worked in the hospital side, but I've always also worked in long-term care. So I'm able to give both perspectives and kind of help Omnicruit steer in that direction as we grow and go on this journey. Over to you, Marco.
Thanks, Dominique, and thanks, Carl and Tim, for this opportunity to be here. It's really an honor again to say that. So to me, I'm Marco Cavalti. It's on the E, it's not on the A. So much to the name. I'm based in Switzerland, here in the just near Austria and Germany, in that triangle near the Lake of Constance. Yeah, to me, I am basically a finance professional. I was working for over 20 years now in finance, in corporate worlds, and with my own business I built up 10 years ago. I was a CFO of an international acting producing company, acting all over the world, in the US, in Europe, in Far East and China. And yeah, I was building up my own company about 10 years ago. It's mainly in the areas of financial advisory and interims management, what I'm doing in the finance world. Of course, strategy development. This is something what I really can bring into Omnicruit, and nevertheless, not to forget the social architecting. This is all the things around building up good and passionate organizations and really flourishing organizations. So I'm happy to be part of the board of advisors. Again, say this is really a great opportunity. I know by myself how it is to build up an own business. It's a hard way. It's sometimes a long way. Nobody is waiting for you. So yeah, I'm sure I can bring some things in, and I'm happy to support all the team on that really exciting journey.
All right. Thank you all. What a tremendous introduction. Now, Tim, I got to come to you because I want you to set us on the right path. Some people looking at Omnicruit, nursing recruitment professionals. What does that mean? Solving the nursing shortage? What does that mean? Can you tell us from the perspective of the I guess the creative visionary of this particular organization, how did you come here and where are you going?
Well, thanks for that question and the opportunity to explain that. I am going to give you some space, Carl, to get away with your introduction as a board member. I see that you got out of that really fast, so we'll give you some slack on that. But so here the idea. So the founders of Omnicruit, we're all recruiters, right? We have over 75 years of recruiting experience between us. I think it's more like 80 years of recruiting experience between us. And of course, we many years ago we decided that, hey, let's do something on our own. I think we got a good opportunity to do this. We thought that we would probably focus more in the oil and gas field because that's where we had the most experience. But as we looked across the landscape, we figured out that there are a lot of other competitors in that market. And then we got together and decided, well, where's the need? We will be successful if we serve a real need. And it was just blaring to us, the amount of nurses that were needed in the United States. Additionally, we looked at all of the nurses that were becoming available in the markets where we were working. So I was in the Middle East and for the most part, Southeast Asia as well. And all of the directors got together and said, okay, nursing is a real issue, a real problem in America. So let's tackle this and let's approach it from the perspective of an international perspective, right? And so we had to do a lot of understanding and market research to understand, well, where are the problems? And we understood very quickly that the problem in America was there was a huge need, right? There was a huge demand, but the supply was not necessarily onshore. So the need, and there's a huge supply offshore. And we understood that legislatively, we had a problem. The problem is the visa categories that are available for nursing professionals. We realized that the H-1B was a huge problem, and then we did discover some other visa opportunities. But then there's quotas and there are numbers and there's retrogression every year that slows that process down. So that's who we are, and that's how we got here. We have spent the first year of our inception just building the infrastructure of the organization, building policy, doing market research, customer discovery, and building the team, and understanding what the brand would look like. So we have spent a lot of time building the brand. And a part of that building was to build a group of professionals that were smarter than us, because we knew that we did not have all the answers. And we wanted to get started with the board of advisors early on this year, but discovered that we probably weren't mature, organized, and ready for that. And so we launched the board of advisors. I'm sorry, I mistakenly said directors. The board of advisors. We launched that board 3 months ago, and we're very happy with the talent that we brought on to guide us and instruct us and lead us along the way. And that's the biggest news these days, right? The activity of our board of advisors, and the entire board is not here with us today. We just wanted a small snapshot of those members that are going to be a key in these first few months. And there is a broader board with several more members. So we're very excited about the broader board. But we're gaining traction in the market. Our name is getting out there. We're starting to build on clients. And so it's a very interesting journey for us as we face some of the challenges. And I think one of the things that Dominique brings specifically to the board is that, she brings a very pragmatic nursing approach, or nursing insight. And I think throughout our journey, I think we probably realized that we didn't spend enough time in customer discovery to really understand what the customers wanted. And as we were approaching our nurses, we realized that, traditional recruiting methods just don't work. And so Tricia and Dominique have been very instrumental in making sure that they drove us in the right direction to think like nurses. So I hope that I answered your question. That's where we are. That's some of the greatest news that we have these days. And we're very excited as we entertain and as we consult more and more clients in the market.
Wonderful, you did. And I will be obedient. I'll give a brief introduction, and then Dominique, I'm coming to you. Once again, I am Carl Armstrong. Yes, I am Tim's natural brother. But let me tell you something I know about my brother. You can be blood, you can be family, you can be friends. When it comes to business, my brother is going to do business. And either you're on and you're helpful and you're doing your job, or you're just, the friend or the family member. So I'm quite honored that I was asked to come. I sit in the Northern Virginia region of the United States. I work for a major healthcare organization in the region. I serve by day as a telecommunications engineer. Every other time I'm serving as a volunteer chaplain. I also sit on that organization's diversity and inclusion board. I do serve as a senior pastor in the region. I am connected with many of our local and state politicians. I do know a couple of them in the U.S. Congress too, but I don't want to signify. I'm also director of operations for a nonprofit called Heart for the Community Initiative. I do sit on a few boards of local community help organizations. Helping people is my passion. And when I heard what my brother Tim Armstrong was trying to do in the way of, being a stopgap for the nursing shortage, I never understood how important nurses were until I started working in the healthcare profession. Let me tell you something. I tell people all the time, be good to your nurse. You have no idea of what nurses do behind the scenes. You see just a very small portion. They are tremendous professionals. They have a tremendous responsibility and accountability, and they are patient care specialists. And so anybody who is trying to help us to stop the nursing shortage and be a stopgap for that, I'm all in. And so enough about me. I want to go to Dominique for a nurse's perspective. Dominique, for you being a nurse and knowing that nurses and nursing professionals are the target of Omnicruit, where do you see where we are what we're doing, and how we are attractive to active nurses?
So I see where we are is growing and getting to a point of recruiting and retaining and offering qualified nurses to healthcare organizations. Where we're going to be an organization that's going to be the choice and preferred place for nurses and nurse professionals and other professionals to come to be placed with larger organizations. I'd see us as a liaison between the two, because you're bringing two entities together. Repeat the last part of your question for me, Carl. That is
I
a
was
three-part
asking,
question.
yeah, no problem. You being a nurse and understanding that nurses are the target of Omnicruit, how do you see where this company and what we're doing is attractive to the active nurse?
I see the attraction is that Omnicruit is very different, and some companies are very aggressive with their recruiting, and I say that's a good thing and a bad thing sometimes, because we don't always want to be, we don't always want to be aggressively stalked, if you want to say so, because some recruiting companies are very aggressive about getting you and wanting you, and if you're not thinking about it right now, please think about this later. But Omnicruit provides the information, and they allow the nurse or healthcare professional to come to them on, not want to say at their leisure, but they allow space for that person to gather their thoughts and gather their space to be able to choose Omnicruit as their career path or their career gateway to larger organizations. And I think that's important in this time, because it's so much that's coming at us all the time, text and land, air, and sea. But that is one thing that I do see, is that we're very careful about the messaging, but also Omnicruit is allowing the nurses to get the information, get the messaging, but say, hey, if you're not interested right now, you can come back to us later, and here are your options. And it's not in a pushy way. And that's
Thank you so
important,
much.
because we're busy and we're sleepy. We don't want people calling us and emailing us and, doing that kind of thing all the time.
I appreciate it. Don't worry, we're coming back to you.
Oh,
Marco,
I know.
Marco, Omnicruit stands as an international company. You have built companies all around the world. You are an expert when it comes to the financial portion. How can you explain or present this company to prospective investors or those who are looking at just trying to see where does our stability on an international scale?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Carl. Well, it's not an easy question. I think the problem is there's some others doing the same thing. And what Omnicruit is doing different is that they have already an international view. That's what others do not have. And it's not only in the finance side. It's in the solution side where the secret lies, and where I'm sure that Omnicruit is going to be successful, because they're thinking broader. They're thinking international. They're thinking, let's say, not only focusing on the nearest problem, like solving, like bringing some new nurses into play, but they're thinking about all the way around how to recruit internationally, how to really solve the problem, and all with a great passion. And so I see that the demand is huge, and the market is huge, and we have a huge addressable market, about over $100 million in the US, and so also the financial perspectives are just great when you're doing your job. And that's what I think what Omnicruit can really do, with passion, and not only, as Dominic said, not only a focus on making fast money, with a focus on what do the customer need, what do the nurses need, and doing that with passion. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say to that.
Wonderful. We do have a question, but before we get to that question, I want to go to Mary Claire. Mary Claire, you are a coach. You are a tremendous person who understands organizational structure and corporate structure. So As you stand as the chairperson for the board of advisors for Omnicruit, from your very unique perspective and leadership in that area, what do you say we have to offer for prospective clients by way of nursing professionals and by way of health professionals who are looking to create a streamline or a pipeline of nurses and nursing professionals for their organizations?
Thanks, Carl, for that question. That's a big question, actually. So I'll probably take that in a couple of pieces. So first of all, I think the words that Marco just used are very critical: passion and care, right? So I see those as driving the team. And if I say the team, it's the executive team, but it's also the group of board of advisors. Yeah. There is an absolute belief that we want to make this world a bit better than it is at the moment. And that is by offering the nurses a career opportunity. It's by offering the colleagues of those new nurses coming in some reprieve. I think we've all experienced during COVID the tremendous burden there has been on the nurses. And I, for one, I have a sister who comes from that background, and just hearing her stories about how much they had to handle, and sometimes I would almost say more than they could handle. So I think to bring more balance back into the work-life balance of nurses on site, and then of course to the facilities that actually have those nurses, that make sure that they can deliver the services that they want to deliver. I think what's really important with Omnicruit is we are not just looking for a body to go into a position. We're actually caring about making sure that this transfer is one that benefits all parties, right? So there's the nurse coming in who sees this as her job, next step in the development. But it's also the facility that is acquiring that person, getting a resource that might come from a completely different environment, because as was said earlier, we recruit in a domestic market, but we're also recruiting globally, which of course enhances the diversity and inclusion, which is a high item on the agenda of many of the leading facilities. So I would say that is where we stand out, because knowing myself how a lot of recruitment agencies work, they tend to go for the short fix. We're actually establishing long-term relationship. It's almost like we're building a community, right? So it's not just a placement, but it's people becoming part of this whole movement, yeah, to close that gap that is there. I don't know. Is there any further question you want to tag on this one? I'm not hearing you.
You're muted.
Yeah, the professional was being so unprofessional. But Tim, I want to pose this question to you and Dominique, especially because of your unique perspectives. Coco asked the question, what gives Omnicruit a competitive edge? And Marco, we're going to need you for this one too. What sets you apart from others in the same industry? Oh my God, that's the question that we wanted you to ask.
That's my favorite question, right? Thank you, Coco. Thank you so much for that question, because our competitive edge is our access. I think in just one word is access. When we came to the market, we came as an international nurse recruiting company with international experience. Our competitors, they have international reaches, and they have international teams, and they have international offices. But what sets us apart is that we come to the table, our directors, with almost a decade of recruiting experience. What does that mean? That means we know how to find people. Secondly, we've lived and worked in the countries that we actually recruit from. And so that gives us access to that market, and that gives us understanding of those legislative requirements, and understanding and connections within in those markets. So when we talk about that almost century of experience of recruiting, half of that, 48 years of that, is international recruiting. So what does that mean? That means that our team, we have set in one particular country or another, and that is several. And I wish I had a map, because we have a map of all the places that we've lived and worked in. It's really populated. And we've recruited individuals from one country to another. And so we've done that process before. We understand that process, and we're all expats. The entire team is all expats. And so we've been in their shoes before. So we have established relationships in those countries. We have peer relationships in those countries. We have a talent pool, a vast talent pool in those countries, and we have the ability to start up entities in those countries from a very organic perspective. And I'll give you two examples. One example is that a good when we're talking about international, and we'll talk about domestic in just a minute. On the international front, when we talk about our relationships in our pool in India, we have Indian partners that we've had over the decades and over various different firms that we work for. So those relationships are established. But two of our directors are local nationals in India, and so we have the very distinct ability to open our entity, our office there in India, and meet all legal and legislative requirements, which gives us a new visa requirement. I mean, not a requirement, a new visa category that we can use, that gives us a leg up over our competitors when it comes to bringing in nurses from overseas. And that's one thing that a lot of our competitors aren't talking about. They're not talking about the use of the L1 visa, because they don't have that capability. And myself, I'm a resident of the Philippines, and so my family, we have the capability of opening a legal entity there and utilize a visa like that as well. Our reach spans throughout West Africa and the Middle East. And so if I had to categorize our competitive edge in just one word, it would be access. And I could spend the rest of the hour talking about this, but I want to turn this over to Dominique so that she can contribute.
And Dominique, you have a unique perspective being a nurse and a nurse practitioner. Man, she wants to know about the competitive edge and what sets you apart. Listen, after COVID, we have so many traveling nurses who really have a lot of choices. What would make them, from your very unique perspective, what would make them want to come and step up and step into Omnicruit?
I believe Omnicruit has a knack for handling things with care and passion. And I think passion is something that has been mentioned here by Marco and Mary Claire. And I think that's what sets Omnicruit apart, is that they handle each client, each nurse with care. And they give every detail, every attention to detail. They don't leave things unturned because we are a smaller company. You're starting out as a smaller company that's set up like a corporation, but it's still done with the utmost of professionalism, with the utmost of passion. And I think that's a lot to be said for nurses, oftentimes signing up with apps, oftentimes signing up with just sometimes AI, signing up with people who are just doing things that are very canned and very, very robot-like in a sense. But Omnicruit takes that out of it and they put passion into it. And I think that's what sets them apart and sets us apart, in a sense, why nurses would choose and should choose them for their next assignment, and why clients choose them, because every case and every client, every nurse is handled with care.
That's what I'm
And
talking
Carl,
about.
I want, before you go on, I want to address the domestic market as well. I spoke a lot about international. One thing that one of our lessons learned is that we should have spent more time with customer discovery in the United States, because there is a war for talent, and I don't use that term lightly. There's a war for talent. And our domestic nurses have they write their own ticket. They have choices, and coming to Omnicruit as a new company, as a startup, can be a bit challenging, because who are these guys and what do they know? And that's why we have these professional nurses on our team to help guide us and speak nurse language and act as nurse advocates. And so when we come to the domestic front, we're competing just like every other entity in our space. And so it is a battle, it is a war, and we're willing to go the extra mile and look in some very interesting places and roll out some very interesting and very creative recruiting initiatives. I wouldn't call them tactics, but initiatives to make sure that we're attracting the best and the brightest domestic nurses and giving them the opportunity to work in places like the beautiful mountains of Virginia.
Well, I think that you two have painted a tremendous picture domestically and internationally. Marco, I'm looking for you to paint a picture financially. The question that Coco had is, what gives Omnicruit a competitive edge? What sets us apart from others doing the same thing in this industry? And so I'd love to have your input on that.
Yeah, again, a good question. Not easy to answer because, well, it's all about figures, and you'd say in the short answer, you'd say, yeah, just keep your costs low and income high, so you're gonna make a big financial advantage. But at the end, this is just a result. And in addition to all what the speakers before me said, I think the secret is with Omnicruit is that they're doing something different than the others do. We all know. Look, you said it's a war for talent. You said it's a war for talent, and war implies mostly that you're pushing people, that you're just you're pushing them, and you just do things what people do not like, especially the candidates. And what Omnicruit is doing different is that they're going, well, passion again. They're going with passion. They're looking for people with passion. They're pulling them in instead of pushing them somewhere. They're pulling them in by being passionate and doing caring about, as you said, caring about the candidates, caring about the nurses as they care about their clients. You know, and at the end, I'm sure this way of let's say rethinking recruiting is going to be what makes the difference at the end. Of course, the figures got to be right, you know, and that's what we're going to look for then. And yeah, I think that's going to be one big part of the difference and the secret, what it's going to be compared to the competitors.
This is great.
And I want to add to what Marco was saying. You know, we've been bootstrapping it for the last 18 months or so, and we've invested heavily demonstrating our belief in what we do. And I'm always coaching our other directors and telling them, guys, this is hard. And the reason why we do this is because it's hard. And I do think that we are extremely competitive, and given our local competitiveness in the local markets overseas to bring those nurses over with a very unique visa category, I think gives us an edge that should be financially interesting to investors, and we're very happy to have that conversation with them.
This is painting a beautiful picture. Claire, I have a question for you. You sitting as the chairperson for the board of advisors, how do you see your influence on that board as being able to help Omnicruit get into and stay into the place where we do have the competitive edge, where we are set apart from others who are doing the same thing in this industry?
Well, as I would say, that is a challenge, right? This is not an easy thing. But I think that's also the reason why I took on this role. I'm excited because, you know, Tim was describing how quite a bit of time has been used to build the infrastructure. And I feel that time was necessary to get to a place where we now, as a board of advisors, can actually take the company one level up or one step forward. Um, my role in the board is twofold. One is to make sure, well, it's actually threefold. One is, of course, I bring in my own expertise, having been in human capital for over 30 years. Second is my role in making sure that the board really uses its full capacity to support the business. Because Tim was saying earlier, we are only part of the full board, yeah, and there's a wealth of experience there that can be tapped into. And a third part, which I think is also important to mention, is that I'm also in continuous conversation with Tim as managing director. I see this very much as a partnership, yeah. And the board of advisors is definitely not a group of people that sit back and sort of say once a month, like, okay, what are we going to discuss and let us review. We are actively partnering. So in every step of the journey, we want to make sure that we contribute our expertise and that the executive team feels supported on this journey, because it is hard going as a startup. Yeah. And you have to build your brand. There's a lot of stuff you have to put in place. So a lot of time has been spent to build the infrastructure, whether it's around policies, whether it's around governance, whether it's about financing structure. I think that now, I strongly believe that now we're at this point that we can take it a level further. And that's also where this call out comes in, to look for further investors to help us grow, because there is such a big opportunity that if I were on the other side, I would jump on the opportunity, not only to invest, but to feel that you are contributing to making this a better world.
Wow. Thank you. And I think that helps people to understand board of advisors. You've nailed it. Now, I have an interesting question. And a part of the reason why we're here today is our branding. And branding is not just the company logo and the catchphrases, but what people are able to talk about as their own personal experience with the company. I'm going to start with you, Tim. So when a nursing professional reaches out to Omnicruit for placement, they're saying, listen, here I am. I'm sitting here in India. I'm sitting in the Philippines. I'm sitting in Ohio, and I'm looking to be placed. When they first make that contact, what is the experience like from the initial contact until placement?
The first experience is an immediate response, and it's done by one of our recruiting professionals that follows up immediately and makes sure that this candidate will fit into a category of nurse that we can take on to a particular client. And we have several clients and several opportunities where we can fit different nurses who may or may not be ready for the United States. Then they get an opportunity to spend time with me. Every single nurse that is ever presented to any client always has an opportunity to sit with me and to chat with me, because we want to make sure that Omnicruit is properly branded in the representation of the nurse, right? So we want to make sure that the nurse is part of the Omnicruit brand. So that nurse can expect an immediate response. They can expect a professional response. They can expect the professional and integrity of a professional recruitment organization that treats them as a human being and not as a product or a commodity. And so we try to make ourselves available through various mediums of communication. We're a global organization, so my phone is ringing at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., midnight sometimes. But I try to answer. I try to answer the WhatsApp. I try to answer all of the chat mechanisms as soon as I can, if no one else is answering. We do have a United States phone number that is available abroad. We did not publish any overseas phone numbers because we strictly wanted to channel all of our phone calls to the United States. But I see it ringing. It goes into a central PBX line, and I see it ringing. Usually, one of the recruiting team picks it up, but if not, I'll grab it. And even on some of the chats, I've had nurses say, is this a bot? I want to talk to someone real, and I say, hey, it's me. I'm Tim. You're talking to a real person, so they can expect a personal approach.
Yeah.
And I want to follow up with you, Dominique. Now, I'm sure Tim is in contact with you, especially when it comes to dealing with the nursing professional. You seem to have the market cornered on this board when it comes to that. How are you able to guide him with specific needs of nurses?
So you were at our last board meeting, though, but we have a lot of conversations just about how, like we like to say, nurse speak or nurse talk, or what is the best way to attract a nurse, keep a nurse, and continual conversations and communications with that nurse. So as far as how I'm able to guide Tim, me and Tim meet very frequently. We meet at least weekly. We have lunch every week. And we talk about these things and try to tease out some of these ways in which we can reach nurses, whether that is on Facebook, via Facebook groups, LinkedIn, different ways to reach them and different ways to keep nurses engaged so that we're able to capture the best talent. But the key thing is constant contact. We have constant conversations. We have lunch, like I said, and we discuss a lot of different things as far as nursing communication is concerned, because we have to be able to, when we get them, we got to be able to keep them. And the same things we did to get them are the things that we're going to do to keep them.
And that's the thing. How do we keep what we have attracted and cultivated? And I will go to Mary Claire for that. She seems to be the expert when it comes to the Mary Claire. From your perspective, how do we master that? How do we master once that initial contact has been made, they get a chance to talk to the managing director who has all of this international and domestic experience. He's being advised by a nurse practitioner, somebody who's active. But from where you're sitting, how do we do that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that we do, right? So what Tim was just describing has a lot to do with the infrastructure that he's been building in the past, right? He's thought through like, okay, how do I want to make sure that I engage with, the nurses that we're keen to hire in a way that stands out. Yeah. And that has to be as of day one, right? Because it's like a business card, the first impressions count. So talking to the MD quite quickly, that is quite something. There's not many companies where the MD makes the time to do this. What does that demonstrate? I value you. I value you as a nurse. It's not just I value you as a client and then, we bring in nurses. No, we value every nurse. And at the same time, there is this continuous connection and business contact between Tim and Dominique and potential clients. And even if they don't have the opportunity or the budget, or they're tied into contracts at this stage, they will still stay in contact because it's that connection, that personal connection that's going to make a difference. Now, what I see as a wonderful opportunity in addition is this forum. We're having Carlsconversations, right? I know that Tim has been in a conversation a couple of months ago. We have this conversation now. I feel that this place where people can actually ask questions like Coco asked and many more, where people in the moment are going to give you an answer. It's not going to be scripted, right? Because we don't know what questions are going to come our way. And we build a connection, a place where people can go to so that when they have decided that they want to go out for another job, we are at front center of their mind. That's what we're after. And it's not just about the body we put in the position. We're actually building longer term relationships with the individual nurse, and we're building a community. So that's
That
what I
is,
have to say about this.
yes, that is awesome. And I wanted to turn this back over to you, Tim, for a moment. It's amazing how much we think alike. As I'm posting something, he's posting something too. Listen, Tim is going to talk about this. We're hiring physical therapists, respiratory therapists, CTOR nurses, med surg nurses, acute care nurses in Virginia and Florida. And I want our audience to know that we desire, Omnicruit, we desire to provide nurses and other clinicians to hospitals, clinics, rehab centers, home health care. Listen, baby boomers are retiring, right? So you're going to need elder care. Many of those baby boomers are in the healthcare professionals. So not only are we losing clinicians, but you're losing the top tier of experience and education when it comes to these clinicians. This is a very important task that we're up against to funnel not just nurses and nursing professionals, but the top notch. And I can't say it enough. They have not been able to say it enough. Compassion, 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 and making sure that we feel the need for not only your nursing professionals, but the cream of the crop. And once again, I can say this about the managing director as a professional and as somebody who's known him for over 50 years. He operates in excellence. And Tim, I want you to talk to this about your hiring and these things that we've just talked about here.
Yes, we are. But I want to tell a story first. I want to tell a story about Angeline. And I've asked her permission to share her story and to even modify our slide deck because I haven't told her story. Angeline is a helper that helps our family because we have a very close loved one of ours that is chronically ill, that needs constant care on a daily basis. And I am fortunate enough to be able to have care in the house around the clock through the immigration process. Angeline she comes to us from the Philippines, and I've been fortunate enough through my immigration status and my presence in other places to be able to employ Angeline to help us give that daily critical care to that loved one. Not everyone has that same opportunity. There are so many people in America who have that loved one that they have to give care to, manage their own individual family, manage their own individual jobs, and have a work-life balance in the midst of giving constant critical care, daily care to a loved one without having to turn that loved one over to a long-term care facility. We want to share that. We want to share that opportunity and share the opportunity of so many families to be able to have a caregiver. We want to share that opportunity with so many hospitals to have that extra batch of help. We want to share that opportunity to current nurses and other paranurse professionals on staff who are looking for that extra person to cover a shift. And it comes down to just covering a shift. And so we're standing with a megaphone saying, we're here to help. We're here to help you find that one person, that 10 people to cover that shift. And that's what gives us a competitive advantage, Coco. We have recruited abroad, and we have batched hired many people and able to bring them to various countries. And we have that skill, we have that ability, and we have those connections to batch hire. So if you're a hospital or administrator or a person that's making a decision in the hospital, have a conversation with us. We have a very unique plan that can help you figure out through your legal and through your HR department how to make this work and how to batch hire and get a real impact in your organization. We are nickel and diamond hiring these professionals 1 and 2 at a time. Omnicruit has a unique ability to batch hire these professionals from overseas. Now, we can't do that domestically. We're hiring onesies and twosies domestically because there is a war for talent domestically. But we have a solution. We have a very real solution that we've done before. So we're not novices and we're not new at this. Our solution is very real, very practical. And if we sit down with your departments of HR and legal, we can actually get it done. There's a special variants for hospitals that are teaching hospitals. You get waivers with H-1B visas. That's an opportunity that we can talk about as well. But we have a real solution. Carl, I don't think I answered your question. I think you talked about your question was around our hiring. And yes, we have a major client in the western portion of Virginia, in the beautiful mountains in the Shenandoah Valley, looking for CTOR nurses, looking for respiratory therapists, and med surg nurses. Our client in Florida is looking for med surg nurses and acute care nurses, and they haven't even touched their work in Texas, and so there's opportunity in Texas as well. So we want to attract both domestic and foreign nurses to stand up to these challenges and raise their hands. So yes, we want to become a part of this community. If you are a nurse overseas and you're getting ready for your NCLEX, give us a call. We'll walk you through that process. If you just gotten your NCLEX, give us a call. We can get you directly placed and directly appointed and introduced to our client in Florida, who has a very, very specific, unique capability of placing foreign nurses who have recently or are in the midst of taking their NCLEX. Excellent opportunity, both domestically and internationally.
All right. This has been a lot of information. And I'm saying to our audience, I really do hope that after these 55 minutes of engaged conversation with several of the members of Omnicruit's leadership and advisors, that you now have a better idea of what this company is all about. I tell you, there is a nursing shortage. That is a real problem. Omnicruit absolutely does have a solution. We want you to know about it, and we want you to tell people about it. Don't forget to please go to Omnicruit's social media presence. You can find Omnicruit on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. You can find just about all of us on Facebook, all right, and on Twitter. Reach out in whatever way that you feel comfortable. Now, we'll tell you the best way to do it is to go to the website. Omnicruit.us is the best way to find us. You're going to get all the information that you need. You will be able to make contact from the website. But if you're one of those type of persons, you don't mess with websites too much. You like to do social media. Like I said, you can find us on Twitter. You'll find us on YouTube, and you'll find us on Facebook. And for all of you who are on LinkedIn, you will absolutely be able to find Tim on LinkedIn. I'm not sure. I do believe that that our dear friend Dominique is on LinkedIn also. So for Marco and Marie Claire, are you two also on LinkedIn? Oh, wonderful. So all of them can be found on LinkedIn. We want you to feel comfortable about reaching out. Please understand that the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. If you don't know, you don't know. And we are here to answer those questions. Now we're going to begin to wrap up. But as we wrap, if you have a comment or a question, please feel free to type that into the chat. We will absolutely get to it. And if there's something that we can't handle while we're live, we're definitely going to go back into the comments on the various feeds, and we'll get you the information that you would like. So as we wrap up, I am going to start with Miss Dominique. We're going to go to Marco, then to Mary Claire, and we will end with Tim. Just anything that maybe we have not addressed, Ms. Dominique, anything that you want to leave the audience with, we're all yours.
I just want to leave you all with the fact that most recruiting companies are not as passionate and not as caring as Omnicruit. It is a journey, and we are in the middle of the journey, but we would love for you to come along. And if you are looking, please go to omnicruit.us. If you have questions, please reach out to any one of us so we can get your questions answered. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Marco?
So thanks very much for this conversation, Carl. To me, as said several times, we have all the ingredients a great story needs. We have hearts and passion. We have our brains with experience and new ways to think recruiting. We have our hands with we're really actively doing something. And of course, we need some money, and there are great opportunities also for investors. And yeah, the demand is huge and the chances are high. And if you have any questions, yeah, call me directly, come over LinkedIn to me, and I will take care of your questions together with Tim and his team. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marco. Mayor Claire?
I actually wanted to close out with my favorite quote, which is be the change you want to be. And I think that is what Omnicruit is about. We are actually living what we're, how do you say that? We are living our mission. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we get those wonderful people who are available in places where they might not find the challenging next job that they're looking for. And we'd like to bring them to this new leading facility, whether it's a hospital or a long-term care facility, and give them that new start in life, in their career. So please join us on this journey.
Thank you so much, Marie Claire. Tim, can you round us out?
Absolutely. And, I think one thing that you learned is be careful when you give me the microphone, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. But I want to thank our friends in Uganda who have made themselves known. And I want to thank our friend in the UAE. I believe he's in Abu Dhabi. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Coco. I have no idea what country Coco is in today, but I'm assuming it's probably France or maybe I scattered to guess what country she's in today. But thank you. She's somewhere in Europe. Thank you so much. And I want to close out by answering this one question that came across, and it was about the question was about Mayor Claire and how does Mayor Claire on the board help the success and edge of Omnicruit. And to be honest with you, Mayor Claire was probably one of the first people on my mind when it came to board members. Mayor Claire is very meticulous, very specific, very driven. She asks those very, very, very difficult questions, and she makes sure that we're on task. And so she's been a tremendous coach to the executive team, and she is instrumental and material in our success, along with the others. And I just want to say thank you. And Dominique makes me feel so tiny sometimes when she asks me these very basic questions that I should have thought of in the first place. But she brings a very unique perspective of nursing, and she asks those nurse questions that we so greatly need. And so thank you so much. And Marco was introduced to the board, and he brings a very global perspective for finance and strategy. And we are now embarking on our strategy for 2024. We've been casting that vision, and we're ready to hammer that out and present that to the board next month. And thank you, Marco, for your activities, and to the rest of the board members. We'll have opportunity for you to come on in a subsequent conversation. But we just want to thank you, and I just want to thank the hospitals and the doctors' offices and the clinics and the nurses who have given Omnicruit an opportunity to present your credentials, your abilities, and to represent you. The journey is long, the journey is hard, but you have a partner. As we combat the shortage of nursing in America, we do realize that we're in a war for talent, and we are soldiers on that battlefield, fighting the battle, trying to prevent these catastrophic results of not having enough nurses on the floor in the United States of America. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for hosting.
Well, thank all of you. This has been an absolute signal honor to host Omnicruit. I am all in, and I'm sure there are some of you out there who are watching, whether you're in the live audience or in the playback. This is really good information. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. If I could borrow that quote from Mary Claire, come on, be a part of this organization. Come on, be a part of this movement. There's a very, very vital role to play in making sure that we are a stopgap for the nursing shortage. For those of you who've had the experience of needing a nurse close in the home, as Tim and I have, for those of you who've had a very sick loved one, maybe you could not get to them. And the only thing that was keeping you comfort was being able to speak to that nurse via telephone or text to give you the information about your loved one. For those of you who have had loved ones so sick that you just can't begin to care, you have seen the love, compassion, and professionalism of a nurse, then you know exactly what we're talking about. Omnicruit is going to be a different experience for the nurses and nursing professionals, the clinicians who need to be placed. And it's going to be a different and very fun and vibrant experience for investors and healthcare organizations who may not be interested in the 1 and 2 hires, but are interested in having a pipeline of nursing professionals to be placed in their organizations. We want you to feel free to reach out. You can reach any of us. Believe me when I tell you, we are absolutely going to be returning your calls and your texts and the various ways that you reach out. It has been a pleasure to host these dear professionals and this tremendous organization. Listen, this is the first in a series of interviews. Omnicruit is committed to staying in contact with you all worldwide through social media. We haven't done all the finalization yet, but we're probably going to go to a monthly interview type deal, and we'll deal with different topics, different subjects. And one way that you can be sure to get the information that you need is to stay in contact. When you answer questions, you give us subject matter to talk to you about, and make sure that you get the expert advice. And believe me when I tell you, you have plenty of experts. You've seen just a portion of the board of advisors, just a portion of the executive board. There's a tremendous team that has been assembled to do a tremendous professional job. And I am so glad and honored to be a part of it. We're going to say goodbye for now, but believe me when I tell you, we'll be back. Please be sure to go to us on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Leave your comments and leave your questions, and we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Until the next time, remember, we are Omnicruit, the Nursing Professional Recruitment Center, and we want to serve you. So until next time, you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.